drive around on my butt like a car. Picture Mario Kart, no cart. And the gas, that's farts. If I could stand up, then I found a place to park. It's the opposite of Pixar's Cars. Acting like a car with the body of a person, as opposed to vice versa. I'm like a Merc, you're a Nissan Versa. Yeah, my behind is my vehicle. Like a lady, I sit down when I need to go. Like fully tinted shades and I keep it low. The eyes are the window to the Kia Soul. If I'm winking, that's my blinker. If I'm blinking, that's my caution. This is how I let you know this where the fog is. It's less a steering wheel and more a sausage. Yep, it is as you fear. My Johnny's how I steer. I know it looks weird, but I'm only switching gears. And my motor oil is beer. The windshield wiper fluid is my tears. She's in love with who I am. Back in high school, I used my buttocks as a lamb. A Lamborghini, not a sheep. I'm a Ram, you're a Nissan Leaf. I drive around on my butt like a car. Picture Mario Kart, no cart. And the gas, that's farts. If I could stand up, then I found a place to park. Half chub, full throttle. Why would someone do this? God knows. I try to dodge a route with cobble. I just bruised my tuchus pothole. If I'm going, I'm in reverse. Grab the shaft and she put it in first. If I'm in the crash, I won't get hurt. The airbag is a pillow in my shirt. I don't have a car alarm, I just scream. I don't have tires, just jeans. I just got a wax, butt cheek. Cables on my nippies, jump me. You call yourself a car guy? I'm a freaking car guy. Okay, so that even wood grain, make a hard right. And I sound congested when I start like.
I'm a legendary love maker. Death touch with the butt like the brush to a Dutch painter. I got dumb dangler, and I'm about to put a Pollock on your dump taker. Foreplay's my forte. When I make love, it's gourmet. I may nut on your face, but it ain't nothing but sorbet. Foretaste, sure thing, but a great line. I'm the word bank plus World Bank plus sperm bank plus a great time. Okay, welcome to the captain's quarters. Back that ass up, captain's orders. My mattress magma, that's a scorcher. Some snacks for stamina, have some hors d'oeuvres. Cleanse your palate with me. My dick's jurisdiction is your municipality. Quality over quantity. Though I get both, a lot of women getting soggy with me. It's humidity that is fogging up the windows. Sex means like curly fries. Go extra deep in them curvy thighs. Got the recipe for your ecstasy, cause my sexpertise is certified. I got a dirty mind and a clean dick, 35-inch penis. She sure I'm lying that she's seen it. And your girl's like, I need this, but it's an inconvenience. No jeans fit, the seam split. My peen is as long as a week with no weekend. Gee whiz, Jiminy clitoris. She is visibly interested. Yeah, I put the pro in promiscuous. I put the pro in profane. Yeah, I'm with your girl doing flips and shit. Cause I get Cirque du Soleil. Yeah, she was not born in the States. Yeah, she puts the ass in ambassador. I put the cock in Caucasian. I'm in that thing like a catheter. You ain't seen dong of this caliber. Long as Excalibur. Made for so long that my phallus hurt. And they moving on in the calendar. Started in May. Next thing you know, it's October. Well, you know what they say, time flies when you got a boner. And I got a boner. And she very good with that python, must be a coder. Hey, throw it on the lava bed, feel the repercussions. Punani, tsunami, she is buzzing. And it seems to me that she is Russian. Why? Cause she sees the means of reproduction.
Oh, hush, Mr. Bird. I'm making a hit. I'm doing raps. Thank you. It's probably his territory. I should probably get going.
Goodbye, goodbye, what's up? Goodbye, 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 what's up? Goodbye, 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 what's up? Goodbye, 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 what's up? Goodbye.
I keep blunts rolled if you must know. Smoking on gas with gusto. Somebody take the controls. I ain't much smoke. Okay. On the plane wing while I puff. The original Mile High Club. Like the red dots I light up. One hit have you getting into tie-dye stuff. She said, will you sign my butt? Ma'am, this is the DMV. She was like, my shift is done. I said, let me see them cheeks.
Alright, fuck it.
I just signed the ladies' buttocks at the DMV. It was fun but weird.
Goodbye, goodbye, what's up? Goodbye, 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 what's up? Goodbye.
I forgot the reason I was at the DMV. The butt thing threw me off. Smoking on gas like I lit a fart. Driving fast through Safari Park. They said no smoking, please. I said, you're not mad I stole a Jeep? They said, wait, do you not work here? I said, no, I just drove in here. They said, get the fuck up at the vineyard. A camel could get injured. Wait,
I was like, you guys have camels where I could spend some time just stand and stare. How the hell are they so thick? They got them some Apex Twins.
I am not attracted to these camels, not at all. I prefer hats.
Goodbye, goodbye, what's up? Goodbye, 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 what's up? Goodbye.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yes. Dak West. Dak West. Scoochie Boochie. I'm articulate as all get out. But I don't know what to talk about. There's a lot of shit I jog around. I think we wish that we could all get out. Pop, where were you as everything got shitty? I was in Chicago rapping about titties. Planet I was on was looking iffy, so I invent a better one and said it with beats. As a fetus you could hear my muffled freestyles. I hadn't even dropped, somebody tried to leak files. From the cradle to the stage until I'm senile. Pop, what's that tat? It's an MP3 file. Hey, yeah. I'm the best to ever do it. If by it you mean entendre about body parts and fluids. Flawless execution of a stupid vision. Like a priceless marble statue of a cupid pissing. Oh my god, it's Ronnie. Shout out to Ronnie at Outback. I was down bad, now up 20. All of my music is found cash for a crowd that finds butts funny. I'm being zany and lanky, I fuck like a rabbit, I feel like I'm Bugs Bunny. Hey, smoking on gas from the warp drive. Blunt is so fat I could sword fight. Ronnie came through with some more fries. Thanks, Ronnie. You better buckle your shorts, guys, because the following 4 lines would be
What? Are you keen? Shut it down. He killed the track. Close the trunk. Close the door.
Creative Chaos, the show dedicated to shining a spotlight on fascinating people creating fantastic things outside the mainstream. So thank you so much for being here. You guys, anybody watching on YouTube, it's really quiet over there. I've seen Grey Wolf popping in, probably from the Madness channel, to say hello. So hello, Grey Wolf. And over on Pilled, Nat Rain, Flip City contributor, and the great Ghost Pepper saying hello over there. So, hello, welcome. We're actually going to stick to our 1 hour format tonight because our guest actually works and he's an early morning guy. So, we're going to get through our opening real quick here. What's going to help is my co-host Batman is not here. But I do have the disembodied voice of our wonderful producer, Cosmic Grandpa, here, because we're going to bring up a couple of pictures. Cos, if you wanted to bring up the first one, Cos and Batman just recently went to a con, and I'm going to let Cos take over. What is this?
Indeed. Bruce came all the way to Pittsburgh, excuse me, to visit Steel City Con, where, as the sign says, cosplay is not consent. Or, in other words, please do not squeeze the cosplayers.
unless they cosplay as a role of Charmin, then you'd have to, right?
Indeed. But yeah, this Bruce and I have done the Three Beermen show together for 4 years now, and this is the very first time that Bruce and I met in person. So this it's the first
Nice.
time, and so we spent the whole weekend together. And boy, am I glad he headed back to New York. So, and now he's already on his way to Florida. I understand, Christy. Is that the case? I'm going to
Okay,
bring you back here as soon as I can get the button to work.
yeah. So, yeah, the reason Bruce is not with us tonight is because he is hauling ass. He told me about 10 minutes before the show, or before we get into the backstage for the show, that he was hauling ass down the four something down to Florida. And they're making great pace, and he didn't want to stop. And I completely understand, especially on longer road trips like that. If you have the energy to drive, just do it. Um, and on that note, you guys, I'm going to be dialing in from vacation. I'm going to go visit my dad in Utah. And about a year ago, we had Justin Belmont on while I was in Utah, and I'm going to sit in the same place with the beautiful red cliffs behind me. So I'm super excited to be able to come at you next week from Utah. And I've got to say, what is up to Ben? It has been a while. It has been a while, Ben, since we've seen you. We miss you, friend. You're my friend. Ben, by the way, just to let you know, because I didn't give you feedback via email, your latest parody of Also Nuts was cracking me up. I had to point things out to Scott after he laid everything in, because that was the last thing that we needed to place in the magazine, along with all of the typesetting for publication of volume 24. So Scott did it really quickly and didn't go over fine tooth comb with the latest parody art, but I personally love doing it. And great job. I love there's one panel where The main character is scrawling on a bathroom wall, and Ben added some graffiti on it, and one of the things says, "Flip City does shit." So thank you. Plus all the other funny little Easter eggs that you always put in there. So thank you, Ben. We're at print now of volume 24. But on a separate note, you guys, volume 23 is going out this weekend. I took a nap before Creative Chaos tonight because we're staying up late tonight to fulfill. And for anybody that does not subscribe to Flip City, this is what it looks like. There will be a label here with your name on it. We do a little stamp with our address, and that's our little indicia stamp over there that gets us our bulk rate for shipping magazines. And when people get it, they go, "Oh my God, our latest Flip City." They pull it out, not knowing exactly what it's going to look like. And this is the premiere of Kitty Phillips as the mascot, kind of like Alfred Newman was, but instead you get kind of a weird, quirky trad wife. So, and our lead parody in this is the Joker. It's hilarious. You guys are going to love it. So, for anybody that is interested in checking out Flip City Magazine, you can subscribe to get a quarterly magazine at flipcitymag.com. That is flipcitymag.com. We're super excited to be doing fulfillment tonight, and we might stream it. We might. So if you're not subscribed to us over on Pilled or Rumble, go find us over there. We're at Flip City Mag across all platforms because we're also going to be playing music while we're fulfilling. So we don't want to deal with YouTube cutting us off because we're playing copywritten music. So we're going to fulfill and stream to Rumble and Pilled and maybe our Substack, where I'm still figuring that as well. Yay! It was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun, and congratulations with the new issue. Great work to you as well, Ben. I just love passing back the great works. All right, that does it for our sponsored by section. And if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe, and help that algorithm because you know we're not getting pushed out anywhere by YouTube. Anybody that comes here early enough does see the warning that it's not for the soy inclined and easily butthurt. And sure, YouTube themselves does not like that. All right, let's bring in our guest tonight. And I didn't ask how to pronounce his last name because most people know him as John's Longbox. He's got a YouTube channel, but I'm going to say John Bua or Bua. Bua. He's a major comic collector, boasting a comic book collection of over 50,000 books. And his first ever title, Heroic Tales, just launched his second edition. It is funding as a second edition, and it is funding as a storefront right now on Fund My Comic. You can find the link in the description. I'm also going to drop it in the chat. Well, we watched the trailer for Heroic Tales, and we'll meet John on the other side.
Yeah, I love that music. Everybody seems to like it, and in my mind, that is now the theme of Heroic Tales. You know, if they ever make an Incredibles type movie, that's going to be the music. If you ask me, just that I call it that snappy jazz. You know, That snappy jazz. I love it. So
Yeah,
how are you?
there you are.
Oh,
Everybody was just seeing me like this. I have to ask though. It sounded too good to be AI
I
music.
don't know. Kyle Prometheus made it. He made the trailer and he sent it to me for issue number 1, and then I hired him for issue number 2 because I really liked what he did. And that's the first thing I asked him. Is it AI? He said, no, there's like a public domain database of music that he subscribes to because he makes trailers and stuff like that.
Okay.
So he got that. So
Oh,
so
I'm
from there,
wonder
yeah,
I'm wondering if it's Envato Elements. That's a pretty great like
I never
giant.
asked.
No biggie. He did a great choice. It was
Yeah,
very exciting.
everybody likes it. Everybody. When I told people I was making a new trailer, they're like, "I like the music," you know. So I'm glad the music stayed.
Yeah, and I see you're wearing
Yeah,
one of those shirts.
yeah. And my wife gets embarrassed when I say this, but what good is marriage if you can't embarrass your wife every once in a while? She said, "Have you lost weight?" I said, "No, it's." And she goes, "That shirt is very slimming on you." So guys, when your wife of 22 years tells you that you look slimming, you know, you know how it is. You get a compliment once every 5 years or so, like that.
Oh.
So, so there you go. Buy the shirt. Be slimming. How's that?
Yeah, and it looks comfy too. It looks
Oh, it's super
breathable and
comfy.
light.
It took a long time. I couldn't get it on my first campaign because, like, you can see it's got a like a cape on the back. Like an image of a cape on the back.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's a full
So yeah, so
wraparound
it's a full.
campaign.
Yeah, and I couldn't find a place that could do it affordably. Uh, and I just asked so many people. And then finally, there's a t-shirt printing place around the block for me, and the guy explained the process. And then I just basically typed what he said to me, what I remember, into Google, and a place came up, and it's like I could put it in order every 2 weeks. So I have about a dozen shirts here, but if I go over that on my campaign, before the campaign closes, I can order the shirts and have them ready. They're quick turnaround.
All right, very cool. And before we get into merch, because I know you came to actually push your book, let's
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
Heroic Tales. I know you launched your very first campaign, and this is your first ever crowdfunding campaign on Fund My Comic a little less than a year ago. You're coming up on a year, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. I think I launched it in July, so yeah, a little less than a year.
And you did pretty good. You
I
came
did,
out pretty strong.
yeah. Uh, I right now I'm at $1,500, which is pretty good. But my first campaign, I did $1,500 in an hour.
Right. What do
Yeah,
you think
I was like, woo, woo, and and between Fund My Comic, Kickstarter, and Indiegogo, I think I finished at just under 9,000. So I understand twos are harder sells, and I understand things are crazy right now. So I put the funding goal as $1,000 because the way I operate, I have like you were saying earlier, I have a full-time job. I'm a construction worker. So I laid out the money for issue number 1 out of my own pocket. And then whatever I raised from issue 1 is paying for issue 2. So this is already happening. It's going to happen. So I put a low fund because it already funded in my mind. But whatever I raise for issue 2 is going to pay for issue 3. So I'm hoping to get up to like 6,000 because now that I got a great team, I know who I'm working with. The first issue, I did things I shouldn't have done. I hired people I shouldn't have hired. I got some stuff done, and then I realized it was no good, and I had to pay somebody else to, you know what I mean? So, but now I got
That's too bad. I'm kind of surprised because, like, from what I understand, with how you've been hanging around the indie scene and everything, you have friends,
right.
right? I'm
Yeah.
kind of surprised that you got like. I
Well,
don't know if
I'm
you want to
stubborn.
go into what happened,
I'm,
but
I'm stubborn. I got to make my own mistakes. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like people, I only learn things from the wrong way. When I'm at work, if I do it right the first time, I don't remember what I did. And then the second time it's drastically wrong, I get yelled at, and I remember what I did that time. So now I know don't do that. But I don't remember the correct way because you just do it. So that's the way I am. I learn everything. I think we learn. I think everybody kind of learns through mistakes.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I know I do. I use, growing up, like, and starting to work on your own and everything, I made so many mistakes, and I used to try to hide my mistakes. And then I realized, oh, it's actually way better and cooler if you admit your mistakes to your boss.
Yeah.
Like, don't try to hide them. You're human.
Yeah, my friends remind me a lot about my mistakes. A lot of my ex-girlfriends, Regina, Paula, they bring up my mistakes a lot.
Ooh, both those names both send red flags immediately.
It's funny because when I saw Paula, I literally saw a red light above her head. Like woo. And then,
She had a
when
dark
you're in
red
college,
aura,
you don't think with your head.
or at least not the right one.
Yeah, not the right one. Yeah.
Anyway, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what Heroic Tales is?
Okay. So, excuse me. Heroic Tales, like the tagline that I say is it's a love letter to Blue Sky Bronze Age Marvel Comics. And then I got people asking me, well, what do you mean by that? So Chuck Dixon says Blue Sky comics are hopeful comics. Like Silver Age Superman. It's a blue sky. It's happiness. It's before this deconstructive era. So, so I want to return to like it's Heroic
So,
Tales would be on the same spinner rack as say like Chris Claremont, John Byrne's X-Men and the New Teen Titans and things like that. Like that I'm flattering myself saying that my comic would be on the shelf with them. But you know what I mean? I'm trying to recapture that lost pre-90s Marvel and DC.
yeah,
So
so
the good guys
basically,
are good, the bad guys are bad. But I also am a product of the time, so there are going to be, modern comic book influences that's thinking. But the point is, I got tired of everybody saying, "Oh, men are toxic, men are, toxic masculinity, and the father's always the jerk." And every sitcom, he can't open the box of stuff, and then he spills the straws or the potato chip. So I wanted to make positive masculinity. So I made a character called the Patriarch, and he was the debut character of Heroic Tales. And Heroic Tales to me was going to be every issue was going to have a different character because I got like 40, 50 characters that I want to tell stories about. It was going to be not an anthology, but every issue a different. So I put the Patriarch. I thought he was a good introduction, and people responded well. So he's a father, he's a loving husband, he's a superhero, he's a protector, he's a good guy. There's nothing deceitful about him. In his mind, the best thing that he could do with it would be to stay home with his wife and 7 kids. They live on a farm. He's a farmer. He's a homesteader. They homeschool because you can't send your kids to school when there's supervillains running around. And you didn't see it in the first issue, but you'll see it in Patriarch #1 is going to be my next campaign. It's going to have his origin. You're going to see he got his powers in public, so everybody knows his secret identity. So it's hard.
okay.
It's hard to keep your kids safe and do your superhero work when when your kids. So they're kind of isolated on a farm up, in the mountains someplace. So anyway, I wanted to make everything that's positive. So like he loves his wife. He loves his kids. He's not one of these people like, oh man, these kids are holding me down. And that chick over, he's everything that's positive. He comes home, he works on the farm, and you'll see in issue 1 of the Patriarch, like when he comes home, his little daughter's like, no powers, Dad. Like, he has to do farm work like everybody else. He can't use his powers because
That's funny. That is funny that you addressed that because I'm like lining up questions that I'm going to ask you about them. And I'm sorry, I just have to say he has super sperm too, 7 kids. And
Well,
yeah, that was going to be
his
my
wife.
question.
Maybe
Was
that's his wife's superpower. You don't know that.
maybe she's a fertile myrtle.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
my
any,
family had 7 kids, so they did it without superpowers. So
yeah. All right.
that's
So
gonna
he
make a
doesn't use his superpowers while farming.
yeah.
Bummer.
But yeah. The next question everybody asks is, no, the kids don't have powers. In my world, superpowers aren't passed on through genes. There's 2 ways to get powers, and I explain one of them in Heroic Tales #2 because I'm also featuring a new character called Mary Sue, and I had a female. I wanted to introduce a female character, and then every time you introduce a female character, it was like, oh, she's a Mary Sue. She's a Mary Sue. So I had him off at the pass. I just named her Mary Sue. So she's perfect. She's beautiful. She's super intelligent. She's a good girl. She loves her family and everything like that. And then she gets basically almighty powers, but she doesn't know how to use them yet. She doesn't even know she has them, and she doesn't know the consequences of using these powers. She could rewrite reality, but
Oh,
she
wow.
doesn't know it. I'm goofing on. She's the girl boss, but she's a sweetheart, and then at the same time, nobody's gonna. The first page of her is her getting a scar on her face. She's gonna go through some hardships. So anyway, I wanted to goof on the idea of a Mary Sue being a perfect girl in literature, comics, movies. So that's literally her name. Sue is a Chinese last name, so she's Mary Sue. Her grandparents fled China under Mao Zedong because they were Roman Catholics, and you had three choices: die, convert, or leave. They chose leave. They went to Flushing, New York in the 50s, dirt poor, and then worked their way up to running and owning Sue Mart, which is a chain of supermarkets up and down the East Coast in my world. So she's 22 years old. She's got multiple PhDs. She's super intelligent, and she's going to work for a guy she doesn't know is a supervillain. He's
Okay.
he recruits the top minds. So he recruited young Mary Sue out of college. She moves to Science City where the patriarch lives, and she's working on superpowers. Where do they come from? How do they work? Because Philip Manning doesn't want to be just a businessman in a world where people can fly and teleport and shoot lightning bolts. He wants superpowers. To me, I always thought, wouldn't Lex Luthor want superpowers? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what he is. He's like Lex Luthor, but he actively is trying to get super. So that's what Mary Sue is trying to do. And then hijinks ensue, and Mary Sue gets the superpowers. So
Very nice. And I'm sorry, I need to clarify. That is the hero that you're focusing on your new book that just launched.
well, there's two. Each issue of Heroic Tales is 40 pages long, so there's going to be two stories. So,
Oh, nice.
I real like in the first issue, I had the patriarch, and then I had Lucius Kane, the suit. He was a bad guy who's going to be a major villain going through the whole series. So I'm keeping that format. There was an A story and a B story, but now I'm just going to make an A story and an A story, and I couldn't decide which one was the better, so I made a flip book, so you could decide. So I got like comics over here as a prop. So the way a flip book works is, this will be the cover, and then when you read The Last Boy, you get to the middle page, and then it's going to be upside down. Well, you flip it over, and then there's a different cover, and you read Mary Sue's story. Which one is the A story? That's for you to decide. The A story is the one that makes it to the bag and board facing outwards. You know what I mean? So buy two
Yeah.
copies, and you can. I couldn't decide like who's going to be on the back cover. Mary Sue or Patriarch. I love them both, so they both get the front cover. So it's the best deal in crowdfunding. For $10, you get two covers, and you get two complete stories and a letters page and some mock ads and stuff like that. People were telling me, John, you're making a mistake. You should make four, because there's two patriarch covers, two Mary Sue covers. So like, you should make four comics. I was like, no, I'm making two comics. So you get the Renzo comic, and then you get what I call the Josh and Jose variant. So
Okay.
yeah.
So basically people have a choice or to back both books, I'm assuming, on your
Right,
campaign.
there's a bundle. Of course, there's a bundle to back both versions, and then there's a bundle to get issue number one. There's add-ons if anybody missed it. There's a digital. You could get a digital tier, and then you could get a bundle of issue one and issue two digital. I'm trying to make it so as many people could read my comic as possible, but can't give it away either.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're close to giving it away. 40 pages for $10, two comics. That is a
Right.
wonderful deal. You
Yeah.
said the best deal in crowdfunding. I'm sorry, we still beat you a little bit on that,
Okay.
but we're not going to get into that
All right.
because it's not about me. We'll talk about Flip City later.
Okay.
Okay, so John, you are a giant comic book collector, like I said in your tiny bio that I stole from you, that you have over 50,000 books. I'm curious because I'm assuming you're also kind of a historian. Um, so I'd like to know more about these flip books. Who came up with that idea? Because it's
I
kind of
don't know
brilliant.
who did them first.
Oh.
But um, right now, Local Man by Tim Seeley is a flip book, and that's what gave me the idea. Local Man is an Image comic, and the premise is it's 2025, and the superhero goes back home in disgrace. So half the book is him in the modern world dealing, and the art's kind of modern, everything like that. But then you flip it over, and it's set in the 90s, where he's hanging out with Youngblood and all the Wildcat, Rob Liefeld, and it's drawn in a Liefeld over garish color scheme, and I was like, that is great. So I was like, I want to do that. But I'm trying to think who else did flip books. I know I've seen them before. Image Comics did them a lot in the 90s, because they would have like two great artists, and I guess egos were clashing, and they didn't want to say you're going to be on the back cover, so that was a compromise.
Okay.
But I don't recall Marvel or DC doing them. But I know somebody in the chat's going to say, yeah, Marvel and DC did them first, or did them too. But I remember Image did them a lot.
Probably not in my chat. Chat's being very quiet tonight, but yeah, my chat isn't like the big comic book people. I don't know what kind of people Creative Chaos actually attracts, but it looks like we've got 38 people watching right
Oh,
now.
how you doing?
Hi. Hi guys. Oh, well, 37 now. That person got shy because I called them out.
Yeah.
For anybody that came in a little bit late, if you wouldn't mind like hitting that thumbs up or even sharing this, that would be super.
Or even buying Heroic Tales on Fund My Comic.
Well, that's actually why we're here tonight. And I will, John, I'm going to drop
I know.
the link right now again in the chat for anybody that's interested in checking out Heroic Tales. It's on Fund My Comic. That's the one that I chose because I'm such a giant fan of Fund My Comic.
Yeah.
So
you get personal. Like I said, it's become my tradition. 2 days before I launch, I call Luke Stone freaking out.
Do you?
Yeah, and he calms me down. So when I do my third campaign, even if I'm not freaking out, I'm just gonna pretend I am.
Oh man, that I treat Luke Stone much differently. I don't really say a word, and we launch without a word. And then if they're taking a little long to approve it, then I'm like I DM him or something like, can you please approve my campaign? And then it gets approved immediately. I freaking love Luke. I love Fund My Comic. I have a question for you though. I'm assuming, well, because we're on the topic of Fund My Comic, I'm assuming if they were at the level of like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, would that be the only place you crowdfund, or would you still do the other platforms?
I don't want to hurt Luke's feelings, but I'm not big enough to leave money on the table. I already told Luke, I said, I want to do Fund My Comic, and then I forget the closing date. It's in July or something like that. And when July comes, I want to do a Kickstarter. Because I did $1,000 on Kickstarter. I'm too small. I can't say no to $1,000. Indiegogo, I got 10 sales. I can take or leave Indiegogo. I'm shadow. You get shadow banned, and it was hard to work with. So I'm done with Indiegogo. But Kickstarter, I don't like that whole survey thing. I still got 5 people that never filled out their survey. They're never going to buy my book again because, as far as they're concerned, they paid for a comic and never got it because their survey got in a spam. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, no, I don't, because I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, you never used Kickstarter?
I used Kickstarter in 2014.
Yeah, because when you use Kickstarter, I don't get any of your information. It makes sense. I understand why they do it. So if you're on Kickstarter, your information is protected. You know what I mean? And then when it's closed, and then their credit card gets charged, then I get all their information. I get the email and stuff like that. But no, they fill out a survey. They fill.
Right.
I have to. Did you change your address or whatever, stuff like that? They fill out the survey, and then I get their information. So like 5 people didn't fill out that survey, so I have no way to contact them. I put general updates in Kickstarter, but I don't know. So those people, I if anybody knows who they are, remind them. I want them to get their books.
Yeah, well, my assumption is you buy the book anyway and just kind of hold it to the side for a certain period.
Yeah, I got a box. I printed up extra. That's why I'm able to offer comics issue 1 on this campaign too. Because I thought there was going to be like, oh, the comic was damaged or whatever. Nobody. I put them all in Gemini mailers. Nobody said no pint glasses got broken. I shipped them all over Europe and Canada. Nothing got broke.
Good. I'm shipping is a stressful
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I thought
You
it was
know,
fun. I kind of liked it.
I've got a question for you
Huh.
about because you've been into comics for so long and you're a major collector and all this. I'd like to know about when did you start noticing like the wokening happening in like mainstream comics?
It was always there. I hate to. A lot of people
Like
like,
the like when it back even when it was called PC, like in the 90s?
yeah. In the '90s, it was always there. It was always there. Even in the '70s, there was always like, politically correctness or whatever. Like you had to say the right things. But it got unbearable around 2013, 2014. I quit Marvel and DC in 2015, cold turkey. And as unbearable as the political correctness was, I quit because I couldn't take the disrespect to continuity anymore. Like I'm a anal retentive freak. We talked about this when you were on my channel about all my little quirks. But like I didn't realize it at the time. I only realized this maybe about 6 months ago. But I love, like, Henry Cavill made a post on Twitter that really made me think about collecting and stuff. And he says, if you don't like the little niggling details and the lore, then you're not a fan. You're a tourist. He goes, true fans love all the little details. And that's why comic book movies, their fans are the worst, because they're like, no, that's not the way Peter Parker was. That you know what I mean? Because we love all that's the Lord of the Rings fans. Like we a real Lord of the Rings fan is not watching Rings of Power. It insults them because of the disregard for continuity, and that's the way I am. I didn't realize that until I saw that tweet. I like continuity. I liked reading Spider-Man from the seven. I started collecting comics in 1975. I liked that it was one continuous soap opera. And the character. There's little mistakes, but like, you know, it's
But
just,
that adds to the charm. The
well,
little mistakes.
the little mistakes, like for a long time, like the city of the Inhumans was in different parts of the world until they addressed it. You know, Atlantis was in different locations, and then they said, "Oh, these are colonies of Atlantis." You know what I mean? Things like that they creatively fixed, and yes, that added to the charm. And then Stan Lee had like a no prize if you found a continuity error and you explained it, he would give you a prize, and it made it a game. It was a lot of fun. And then like around, the example I always give is Ta-Nehisi Coates was writing Black Panther, and there was just so many continuity mistakes, and I was just like, how dare he? Who does he think he is? Yeah, I know he's a celebrated poet, and I know he's the celebrity du jour, but where is he now? He was only in comics for what, 8 months, and they catered to him and they allowed him to rewrite Jack Kirby and Stan Lee to get what nobody remembers his run anymore. You know what I mean? Nobody's talking about it. The movies are based on Reginald Hudlin and Christopher Priest. They're not. Nobody references his stuff. So I was just like, I'm done. I just got angry with it. Like, this guy could rewrite Steve Ditko's characters. Who is he? Who is he? And it's not like he mentioned comic books in his poems for 20 years. He just did it because it was cool. Because it was cool. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm going to write the Black Panther. I'm a black poet. I'm going to write the Black Panther. Do you know all of his history? I don't care about his history. It's a stupid comic book. I just want to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, and that's all it is now.
Right. And
Yeah.
now that's all it is people who just want, like your boy Zach for Diversity in Comics said it, and he's absolutely right. It's just people who just want to get a Netflix pitch. You know what I mean? So they're going to write a comic book for 3 years to get it on their resume because the pay is crap. You know what I mean? So they're hoping it leads to other stuff. I mean, Chuck Dixon got into comics because he wanted to write comics. Grant Morrison got into comics because he wanted to write comics. Alan Moore got into comics because he wanted to write comics. Denny O'Neil, like, these people loved comics. Chuck Dixon only started writing novels because they kicked him out of comics. You know what I mean? He never wanted to write it. He had a funny story. He said he fought with his wife for a year about, I don't want to write a novel. I want to write comics. But finances got desperate, so he wrote a novel. And now they just made a movie about it. You know what I mean? So he goes, I owe my wife an apology, and I apologize every day. She was right.
Well, I mean, that's what you have to do anyway if you're married. You have to apologize every day, no matter what you did.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I didn't do anything wrong, so
hey, and on that note, actually, I think it's time for us to get into our mansplain segment.
oh, oh, oh.
Don't worry, this is still all about you. So
Well, that's good
let's
because I have a character, the patriarch. He's really good at mansplaining. That's what he does
oh,
for a living. Yeah.
do it in his voice then.
I wish I could.
All right, let's get into the segment, Kaz.
There's something called mansplaining. Have you heard about this?
We know what mansplaining is.
Mansplaining is when a man will condescendingly explain something to a woman that she already knows.
See, now here's where we get off the rails already in mansplain is very, very likely, John, you're going to explain something to me that I don't already know. So,
All right. Well, I'm going to explain this to you. If women just listened the first time, we wouldn't have to mansplain.
oh, okay. I particularly like when guys come into the segment and start off with like, okay, listen, toots. No, but my question is because I'm pretty sure that when I came over on your show, which I had a great time on, by the
Yeah, it
way,
was a lot
you're
of
a
fun.
wonderful host. Um, I'm not a comic book person. Like I've never really been into them. I really respect people that are so know a lot about comics. I used to think it was like, no big deal. But after hanging around with comic book people for a long time, like I have major respect. You guys know a lot. But my question to you, because you're doing a superhero book and you see this floating around on like social media and stuff, is the age of the superhero dead? Are you beating a dead horse? And why did you decide to do superheroes?
I love superheroes. So I always wanted to write superheroes. I love superheroes. I don't know. I I I have a horror comic in mind. I have a historical comic in mind, but my first love is superheroes. Like growing up, I ignored all the. I didn't read war comics. I didn't read romance comics. These were all big back in 1975. I did read Mad and Cracked and stuff. That was just. I didn't even consider that comics. I just consider that like every kid in America read those. That was just part of being a kid in America. Here's you're a kid in America. Here's your Mad magazine.
Right.
I avoided sci-fi. I avoided war, but I always loved superheroes. I was that kid that had a towel and ran around the house pretending to be Superman.
Mhm.
Things like that. And I love Superman, and I love the good guy Superman. I love the Boy Scout Superman. So when I said I'm going to make a comic, it was I'm going to make a superhero comic. But you don't really see too much in issue one, but it's like a conspiracy theory superhero comic. Everything's like there's going to be a lot of oh, I recognize this conspiracy theory. I recognize that conspiracy theory in the stories, things like that. So
That in my opinion, that kind of contemporizes it.
yeah. So like when I say blue sky, what I mean is it's going to be like they're good guys. The good guys are good guys, but at the same time, I do have a couple of heroes that are bastards. But they're my characters. I'm not taking Spider-Man and then making Spider-Man a jerk. You know what I mean? Like I have a Batman ripoff called the Raven, and he's going to be the Dark Knight Avenger of Science City. And I want to try to be like, if there really was a Batman, you would hate him, and he would be scary, and you wouldn't want him in your town. Like a guy who just swoops out and beats people up. Patriarch, you're not going to be scared of. Superman, you're not going to be scared of. But a real Punisher, a real Batman, you don't want him in your neighborhood. So I'm gonna have some shady superheroes and everything like I have one character called the Peacekeeper. He's a superhero that's loyal to the UN. Is he a good guy or is he a bad guy?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, like you said, because we're on the topic and I forgot to ask outside of mansplain, you have a plan for, I believe you said 40, right? 40 superhero stories that you want to tell?
Oh yeah, I have at least 40 because this is all. I play this role playing game with my friends. I'm playing this Sunday. It's called Village Vigilantes. It's a Dungeons and Dragons, but it's a superhero version of Dungeons and Dragons. And I've been playing this since the 80s.
Oh wow!
I'm not joking. Like I always say, remember when Mitt Romney said he had binders full of women? I got binders full of superheroes. So, and then so I'm not even joking. I have like, and we've been playing, and I have all the stories written down and cataloged, and plot threads. We still got to finish this. I'm anal retentive about everything. So now that we don't play that much because they have kids, and I lost friends from COVID and things like that. This is my way of telling those stories that I literally wrote these stories down 10, 20 years ago.
That's really cool. So it's the generally the same group of people you've been playing with
Now
since
I
baby?
got one friend that from fourth grade that we started playing these role playing games. My friend Jimmy, uh, he and I still play. But Jimmy is like the only consistent guy that's been through all my iterations of groups. But I had one group when I went away to college in New Mexico, and then I had another group when I came back and lived in Flushing. But people in Queens don't buy cars, so when you move out of Flushing, they're not going to drive. We don't have cars.
Right.
You don't exist anymore. You moved out of New York City. New York City people are like that. Now I met a new group of people, so we're on our fourth or fifth session, and they're just like, we've been playing 4 times and you already killed half the group. I'm like, "Way better." So I guess I guess I'm a harsh DM, and they're learning that there's no resurrections. They don't come back. Dead is dead. So there you go. Why superheroes? Because I love them. I want there to be a good guy. I like the idea of like an all powerful good guy. Like just think about it. The X-Men. You don't want the X-Men around in real life. They're horrible. They're scary. They're like, and I'm not even talking about the fact that they're mutants. I'm talking about their behavior. They're driving through the streets, and the cops chase them, and they shoot the cop car with I-beams and continue on. But they just want to be treated like everybody else. Magneto gets arrested. They break into the trial and take because Magneto's never going to get a fair trial under humans. But we just want to be treated like everybody else. Like, that's scary. But I want there to be blue sky superheroes, like the Patriarch. When he lands, everybody's like, "Oh, the Patriarch's here." That's why I didn't like the Man of Steel movie. When Superman landed in the town, everybody was afraid of him. I'm like, nope, that's not Superman.
Right.
Right?
Well,
The Christopher Reeve movie, it was an introduction, but when he showed up, it was, "You got me, who's got you?" And then the other guy was like, "That's a bad outfit." Like, people wanted to know who he was. They were intrigued. They weren't scared of him. They like, "We don't know who this guy is, but he's awesome." That's a Superman movie. That's what I mean by blue sky, and I like that. I want there to be good guys, but there's going to be the bad guys are going to be nasty. I got a couple of real sons of guns in the bad guys that you just want them to be brought to justice. So I got no problems with the bad guys being the bad guys. I just laugh when Dr. Doom says he wants to do this, so therefore you agree because you wrote that character. No, I didn't. That's Dr. Doom. He's a bad guy. He does horrible things. I'm not a dictator. Dr. Doom is a dictator.
right.
You
You have stories to tell.
Right. Like, and I don't want to insert my politics. It's no secret I'm a conservative, so the Patriarch's not going to be vote for Trump. But Obama's a bad. Like, I want to. I just want to. The politician's a bad guy, but I never say he's a Republican or a Democrat. He's Lucius Kane. He sold his soul to the devil. To become a politician. Literally, that's his origin.
Nice.
So,
Well, I think it depending, regardless of what side you're on, if you're a thinking person, most, if not all, politicians are POSs.
Right. I'm going to hit all the tropes. Like, there's going to be a bad politician. There's going to be a bad businessman. There's going to be a bad preacher character. You know what I mean? All that. Then there's going to be a bad world conqueror. There's going to be a bad alien. I explain my comic as a superheroes meets Dungeons and Dragons with H.P. Lovecraft sprinkled on. So
all right.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Something that I'm super excited to get into with you is our conspiracy corner because, like you said, you have a bunch of conspiracy weaved into your comic, and I know you know a lot of conspiracies. So we're gonna.
I don't believe them, but I love them.
I love them, and I believe some. All right, so
I got to ask you then, which one do you believe? Give me one of them that you believe.
Well, let's see. I believe 9/11 was an inside job.
Okay.
or at the very, very least, not the official story for sure.
Well, I mean, I believe that they were taken out by whatever Muslim terrorists, but I don't believe the Pentagon.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we're not in corner
We'll
yet.
split the difference. We'll split the difference there. Like I always said that the CIA and Mossad killed Kennedy, so it ain't a conspiracy theory anymore, right?
Well, I guess I didn't. I'm too busy publishing a magazine to even follow anything anymore. But let's get into the corner so we can actually do it.
Sure. What do we got? What do we got?
I wanna live with a conspiracy girl. I could be prepping the rest of my life with a conspiracy girl.
Those weren't aliens.
Works because I have my handy dandy extra ultra protective tinfoil hat on. We literally can talk any conspiracy, and I'm not going to get kicked off YouTube. And real quick, before we get into conspiracies, I just got to say what's up to Levi, Deepak, and Vulcan Lives. You showed up. Thank you so much. Never apologize for being late. I'm just glad you're here and you made it. So, and Levi, oh my God, you've got your gold foil hat. Super exclusive.
It doesn't fit my
handcrafted.
gigantic head,
I know.
so I got to put it back.
It's why it says place on head and balance. Anyway, and that's okay. You don't have to have your own hat because this protects us both. So the way Conspiracy Corner works is I have this wheel. It is the Wheel of Creative Chaos's Conspiracies. And we're going to bring the wheel up. And after it's up, I'm going to explain how this wheel works. So you can see it has a lot of topics on there. It definitely does not, it's not all inclusive. It does not have every conspiracy under the sun, but there's a lot of them here. And you get 3 spins, John. You can choose topic 1 or topic 2 that it lands on. But if you choose to do a 3rd spin, you're stuck with whatever topic it is. But here's the great thing about Conspiracy Corner. Even if you don't know anything about the conspiracy, and because you're a writer yourself, you can just make something up.
Well, I'm looking at all of these. So far, I got stories about all of them.
Good. I think you're going to do fine. What's up? What's up, Zaff? Hello. Christian Zaffo saying hello.
Oh, how you doing? Okay.
All right, but do you understand how the wheel works?
So I click control.
No, our producer's going to do that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Then you ask him to spin it.
Okay. Just tell me when to go.
All right.
Oh, there we go. And what do? I say hit stop or something?
No, it does it automatically.
Okay, okay.
We're not that technologically advanced on this wheel. Oh, how funny. I think we pretty much ended the last segment on a quick mention of the JFK
I already talked about
assassination.
this one, so I'm going to give it a spin.
All right, we're going to spin again.
Okay, wait a minute.
What?
We'll say this. There is a major story about the JFK assassination in my comics. If I could get to around issue 7, I will just say that Marilyn Monroe and JFK were both killed by the same people because it was a sacrifice that they did in prehistoric times. Ancient Greece did. It's called the sacrifice of the king, the sacred wedding, where the king and queen are sacrificed to generate magical energy for a purpose. And they were the king and queen of America. So there's my conspiracy theory worked into my comic book.
All right. Interesting. We might change Conspiracy Corner to see how many of these are just wrapped into your comic book. All right, we're gonna spin again though for the topic that we're because that's what you wanted, right, John?
Sure.
Okay.
But I think there's only 1 or 2 of them I couldn't talk for an hour and a half about. I can talk about anything, you know that.
Yeah, but remember, you told me you needed to get out of here in an hour, so we're closing it out.
You know what? You got me wide awake. Oh, Bigfoot! Bigfoot will be an issue. Oh, voodoo.
Not landing on that. We're on Voodoo and Santeria.
Voodoo. It's not a conspiracy theory. There really is voodoo. It started in Africa and made its way to Haiti. And I have a role-playing story about Haiti was taken over by like voodoo gods, like Lovecraft gods, and that's why they got like what's his name? I can't remember the like Papa Doc, like sacrificing people in the streets, and like that group. I can't remember his name, but there's a literal general that runs around and captures people and eats them because there's an unspeakable horror that lives in Haiti, and they're literally corrupted like Lovecraft. Everybody goes insane, and that's what's going on in Haiti. That's my voodoo conspiracy theory for the day. Am I playing right?
No, you're breaking the wheel, actually.
Oh, okay. What am I supposed to do?
You
But
guys, John's breaking the game. He's not
Oh.
doing it right. No, basically, so if you wanted to stick with the voodoo topic, we would take the wheel down and we'd talk about it for like 5-10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But we're gonna spin it one last time. You're
Okay.
this one. We're taking the wheel down, and then you're talking over it.
Okay. I'll talk about anything.
I know you will.
I think I might be the easiest guest on any talk show.
Yes, I would agree, and that's why I was super excited to have you tonight, especially because I woke up from a nap right before. I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's John. Oh my God, are we gonna do Bigfoot?
Oh, good. Bigfoot.
Yay! All right, because
Now, how do I play correctly? 'Cause I could tell you my theories on Bigfoot,
Yeah.
but okay. First off, back when I was a kid, there was a Leonard Nimoy had a TV show called In Search of, and the pilot episode was called In Search of Bigfoot, and they actually played it in the movie theater. And my brothers took me to go see it in the movie theater, and I was scared as crap. I was like a little kid. What was it, like 74, 75? So I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot. Then Bigfoot was in the $6 Million Man, Steve Rogers, the Bionic Man. But I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot. So I'm going to give you spoilers. In issue 5 or 6 of Heroic Tales, there's going to be a superhero team, and they're going to be out practicing someplace in the Midwest. And one of the characters the leader of the team, his name is Visionary. And Visionary's powers is he can perceive things that other people can't. He has every sight-based power. He's got laser vision, heat vision, X-ray vision. But like in D&D terms, he would have dark vision, ultra. So he could see astral projection. So as they're he sees a Bigfoot, and he's like, "Did anybody else see the Bigfoot?" And then the Bigfoot's like, "That guy sees me." And then the Bigfoot gets hit by a car. I'm giving away the story. So what happens is, why Bigfoots are always blurry?
No,
I
don't.
there's never a clear picture of a Bigfoot. They're always out of focus. They're always blurry. You know what I mean? So this is why, because Bigfoot, in my world, they're always walking on lee lines, and they're absorbing lee line energy through their feet. So their feet are big, so they can absorb. And this lee line energy masks them, so they can't be photographed. But the thing is, Visionary saw him, and perception is the key to reality. So when you see the Bigfoot, you like quantum locked him into this reality, so he was there, so he got hit by the car. And then, so that's the thing about Bigfoot, is they're lee walkers. They walk lee lines in between worlds, and they're constantly battling leprechauns for a reason that I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, darn. No spoilers.
Because, leprechauns are something tied to lee lines also. But this is all the conspiracy stuff that I throw in my comic books. But do I believe now in the real world, to get more in line with your game? Do I believe that Bigfoot exists? I desperately want there to be. I want there to be Bigfoot. How cool would it be to have these Harry and the Henderson thing? But I'm a natural skeptic. I don't believe in anything, but I like my wife, like, what do you mean you don't believe in elves and you don't believe in fairies? And, when the cats are just standing there staring up at the wall.
I'm sorry. So your wife is a conspiracy theorist?
No. She just she believes in angels and fairies. And, you know what I mean? Like, she believes in a magical world. Whereas I live in a, give me proof. And she gets mad sometimes because she'll talk about something and I'll be like, she's like, oh yeah, at 4:15 every day I have this thought. And I'm like, yeah, because you trained yourself to have that thought at 4:15. It's learned behavior. I had a girlfriend in college that she would say, like, I thought of this at this certain time every day. And I was like, yeah, but you have a million instances in a day and you didn't think of that thing. So really it's 1 out of a billion chance, but you chose to make that 1 out of billions, significant. And she's like, I hate you. We got to break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way I am. I'm always squashing all the supernatural stuff. Like, I don't believe
I
in
know.
ghosts. I don't believe
You
in anything. But I
poo-pooed
want
on her parade.
Yeah, like I want there to be space aliens. Unfortunately, I'm starting to like. I don't believe in demons, and I don't believe in angels, and but I believe people believe in them. Like I don't believe in the occult, but these days, the more I'm hearing stuff, I do believe that other people believe in demons, and so it might as well be real. Like this adrenochrome stuff. You're gonna tell me there's not one person on the planet that's doing that? Like as long as two people are doing it, it's a conspiracy. If one person's doing it, you know what I mean? So
Well, see, now you're rationalizing yourself right back into
well,
conspiracy. Like maybe you do believe more than you
I
let
don't
on,
believe that
than you let yourself.
I don't believe that they're sacrificing to Moloch, but I believe that they believe they're sacrificing to Moloch. So it might and Alan Moore says like magic exists. He goes, because right now I'm telling you magic exists, and now we're thinking about magic, and if we're thinking about it, then in a certain way it's real because there's chemical reactions. You know what I mean? That's so yeah. So if I don't believe in a real Moloch, but I believe that other people believe in a real Moloch, they're going down to Epstein Island with Lady Gaga and they're doing horrible stuff. So in a real sense, it does exist. So is that a conspiracy? I don't know. As long as two people are doing it, it's not a conspiracy. So
No,
and
it
I
is
believe,
a conspiracy.
right.
If two people are.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's not a conspiracy like you're a wacko. As long as two people are doing it, it's a real thing.
Hey, I just real quick, John, I just got to give a major shout out and a thank you to No Prisoners Podcast over on pilled.net, who donated 451 gold pills. That's money over on Pilled, by the way, saying, I love you, Flip City Mag. Woo! I love you, 2451.
Yep. I might as well show this big stack of Flip City right here.
Oh, that's right. So just so everybody knows, John is now an official Flip City magazine collector. That's where that little gold foil hat that wouldn't stay on his big giant head
Yep.
was from the collector's pack, and you plan on continuing to collect.
Yeah.
I would love if you would ever. I don't know if you've popped any open and flipped through them, but we love them. We hope you love them as well.
Yeah. I'll be reading them this week. I've been so busy with my launch, I haven't read any comics. I usually read up to 5 comics a day just because I got to burn through the stack of unread. But I haven't read any in like 2 weeks because I've just been coming home from work, promoting, getting stuff together for the comic.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah.
Have you been doing, just like in regards to your promotion, have you been doing like major podcast blasting or just kind of mellow? Like
I can't invite myself onto other people's channels, so I just
you can.
I just put out the word like, can I come on your channel?
Oh, okay.
So you took me up on it. Saturday, tomorrow night I'll be on Aldous on the farm. What is that for the Friday nights? Yesterday I was on RJ from the Fourth Age. That was pretty good. I got like 5-6 sales.
Oh, nice.
I'm looking at my calendar. Renowned is going to be, anybody. Katie said she'll have me on. I think either this Saturday or next Saturday. Whoever. I'll go on anybody's channel. I'm trying to sell books. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Katie's audience definitely backs. That is how we've been able to make gold 2 funds in a row. So thank you. Major shout out to Katie for having me on a couple of times and pushing. She is a pusher.
Yeah.
That's not the purpose of this show. This show is more to have fun and let you know that these things exist. Because guess what? I dislike the mainstream a whole lot. I to the point of kind of anger. So I love talking to indies. So you guys, something that as John was talking tonight that I was thinking is between number 1, your love for superheroes, and number 2, the fact that you've been training to write for superheroes your entire life by how much you've read, I can pretty much guarantee you these are going to be enjoyable reads. And I love that you named your first premier superhero the Patriarch, because that's triggering.
When I was moving into this house, my buddy Mike and I were driving, and I was just like, I want to make a superhero because I was getting annoyed at how politically correct, and I was just like, I'm going to name him the Patriarch, and just to spite everybody, and he was going to be like the ultimate male, toxic male. But then I started, like, I designed the costume, and once I designed the costume, I was like, I like this guy, and I had an epiphany that if you make something out of spite, it's not going to last.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe the idea was triggered by the spite, but I think you made a really good choice because the point is they're calling masculinity toxic masculinity.
Right.
And masculinity in and of itself, it's neutral, but if it's like applied correctly, it's a very, very positive thing,
Yeah.
you know?
I it's not. Yeah. I think it's positive. I mean, it's yin and yang. We need femininity. We need masculinity. I'm old fashioned enough to say that kids need a father and a mother. Ideally, that's the best.
Mhm.
But I'm not old fashioned enough to say, like, if you're a lesbian couple and you adopt a kid or whatever, that's fine too. But I do think the best situation is, yin and yang, duality, male and female, black and white, night and day, sun and the moon. You need a healthy balance of both. But other things will work. I was going to
Yeah.
say more controversial things, but I'll stop there.
And Levi Skeen says
I know
that's
Levi.
freaking cool.
Yeah, so like the people started to like the Patriarch even before he came out. Once I started showing pages of him, what he looked like. So when I told people he wasn't going to be in issue 2, that I was gonna debut Mary Sue and the Raven, my Batman type character, people are like, but we like the Patriarch. And I'm like, am I sabotaging myself? Like, did I make a character that everybody likes? And then who knows how long? Because this is crowdfunding. It's not like it's every month. So, if it was every month, I would go with my original scheme, because then it would be 2 months wait, you know what I mean, before he came back. But I can't do that. So I was like, okay, the Patriarch is going to be the flagship character of my stuff. He's always going to be there. And now I'm like, you know what? Maybe I got enough stories for him that I could spin him off into his own comic. So I was going to have his third appearance be his origin. So his third appearance will be his origin, but it'll be in Patriarch #1. So I don't know how I'm going to do it. It really depends on this campaign. If we I hope we could raise like $5,000, $6,000, and then I could do like Patriarch, Heroic Tales, or maybe do them both, because I want Renzo to draw them both. He's such a good artist, and it's like a band. How do bands stay together for so long? Like me and Renzo, our personalities get along really well. I love his art. So I want to work with him. But I'm thinking maybe Renzo will draw the Patriarch and one of the stories in Heroic Tales, and then I'll get a rotating other artist to do another story.
Yeah, well, I'm super glad and happy for you that you're building that relationship with your favorite artist right now, because at the very beginning, before I brought you on live, I was very happy that our Ben Sullivan, our lead parody artist, popped in. So when you do finally flip open those books, those lead parodies, that is all Ben. And he comes in and says hello every once in a
Well,
while.
you got that. You know what I mean? You're working with somebody you like working with. You want to stay working with them,
Yeah. Hopefully for, over a decade, we'd be very happy to make this go for at least another 10 years. But on that note, I think we're going to leave Conspiracy Corner because we've changed the subject, I think, 15 times.
Yeah, I do that.
Since we've been in it. And we're going to go into our very last segment. Even though I would consider you already Flip City branded because you bought that collector's super pack, I still have to brand you on the show because it's for the audience.
Okay.
And I choose things that kind of relate to my guests. So we're actually doing a repeat here, but it may not be a repeat. Flip City has not done much about superheroes. We do stuff here and there. But of course, we do it all in a satirical manner. And I thought it'd be a fun thing to have you read one of our pieces. So, Cause, if we can just bring up the first slide here, I'm going to have you read what superheroes could be, how superheroes could be saving the world. I'm going to read you in on this, and then you get a choice of 4 different superheroes that you get to read the Flip City version of. Does that make sense to you?
Kinda. Let's see. I'll mess it up or turn it into something different.
Oh, totally fine. All right. So these days, Superman would rather be snuggling young boys while Batman explores his emotions. But just imagine, with a little creativity and a half decent writers, how superheroes could be saving the world. And these are your choices. So you can choose to read about any of those 4.
Well, Superman's my favorite, so I gotta pick Superman.
You got to. You're gonna pick Superman.
Yeah.
All right, cause if you can bring up Superman, that would be fantastic.
Okay. So I'm supposed to read this?
Yes.
Okay. All-American urban crime fighter Superman now aspires to save everyone from the imminent death at the hands of diversity hires, with mass transportation systems run by clowns obsessed with their hair and posting selfies on the internet. What's even keeping these aircraft in the air? When not holding up collapsing bridges, Superman escorts jets all the way home. But with so many potential disasters, even he can't do it alone. He recruits Supergirl and Iron Man and forms a superhero super squad devoted to propping up airplanes to avoid an airplane holocaust.
Very good, John. I mean, don't you agree? Superman could really help out these days.
Yeah. If only, yeah, if only. I don't even know what Superman's doing. I know he left the planet and his like 9-year-old son was aged up until 17 and then got a boyfriend, which is really creepy because he's only 9 years old, really. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, wow.
Do. So I don't know. I like Superman so much. I'm like cringing at this new movie. I want it to be good, you know. But I don't know. I think people fundamentally don't get Superman anymore. They think he's old fashioned. They think he's hokey. But yeah, that's the charm of Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying, even though we're outside of mansplain. But I've got Levi Skeen asking you a direct question. John, would the Patriarch have a Bizarro character, and could his name be Beta Male? Good one.
Levi Skeen, let me just say, read Patriarch #1. You are remarkably close to what's going to happen.
Interesting. And that is still live on Fund My Comic as well.
Well, no, Patriarch 1 is my next thing. Hero #1 was the first comic, and then I'm going to tell the Patriarch's origin in Patriarch #1, which will be my next crowdfunder. And,
well, something that it sounds to me like you're doing with your stories is anybody could back any campaign at any time because you're doing kind of a different character every time and get introduced to your universe in that book.
I'm glad you said that. Every issue has 2 complete stories. So, and even if you get Heroic Tales #2, you're not going to be left out. You know, I wanted to tell an epic long superhero story, but until I go monthly, I don't think that's fair to you guys. You know, and think about it. I'm going to tell a story at $10 plus shipping. You're going to pay $180 for a story. You know, like there's a lot of crowdfunding comics that are really good, but one guy pointed out to me, he goes, "You realize that's a 4-issue stories at $35 an issue plus shipping? That's $200 to get a story." And I was like, wow. That when you put it that way, that story's not that good. So what I want to do is, you're paying $10, so you're paying $5 a story because it's 2 stories in a comic book, 2 complete stories, and you don't need the issue. But like old comics in the 80s, they build on each other. You know, you know, like I'm gonna leave an Easter egg in Patriarch #1, so that when you get I'm gonna leave an Easter egg in Patriarch #1, so that when you read Heroic Tales #5. I hope everybody goes, oh my God. And then they go back and look at it. And I want you to get a little tear in your eye, you know, because somebody's going to do or say something that makes sense in the context of the story. But then when you get further context, you realize that's not what he meant at all. He meant something else that's absolutely heartbreaking. So, you know, but
all right,
but you'll get it either way. If you know, so each issue is a standalone complete story the way Marvel and DC used to be. Because I don't know, maybe this is going to be my last crowdfund. And wouldn't that be horrible to like get you interested in a story, then I never complete it?
That would be horrible. So you guys make it so it's not horrible and go back Heroic Tales 2
You know,
over on Fund My Comic or any of your other platforms of choice. Are they live now or not on
no,
those?
only Fund My Comic.
Okay.
I don't want to compete against Luke. You know what I mean? So like I already told Luke and I said I'm sorry, but I'm going to go on Kickstarter. But when Fund My Comic is done campaign, then I'll go on Kickstarter.
All right. Fantastic. Well, John, I didn't get to tell you this, but with your official Flip City brand done here on Creative Chaos, that comes with invitations back to our FAFO streams where we do live reads and stuff like that.
Okay.
And in fact, I think I might eventually, maybe even in the very, very near future, do a FAFO stream where we read other people's stuff if you're ever interested in presenting some of your stuff on a stream, and we do voices and sound effects and stuff like that, but that's a work in progress.
Okay.
Anyway, I think we're gonna close it out tonight because I know you will talk to me all night, and I'm doing you a favor, sir, by releasing you from the creative chaos. So before we leave though, where can everybody find you? What do you want them to do right now?
Okay. Well, I have a YouTube channel called John's Long Box. So you go to YouTube. I assume you're there already, and just look up John's Long Box. I do streams Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays and Sundays, usually 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have what I call the conversations. So I talk to other comic book people. I tend to stay out of the drama. I try to, I just want to talk comics and comic related stuff. I will talk board games. I've had like guys like Tom Vassell, who runs the biggest board game site on YouTube, talk about board games and, nerdy stuff, D&D role playing games. I'll talk about stuff like that. Friday nights, it's clobbering time at 8:30 on YouTube, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, where we take two things. Like, it was really fun. One day we took who would win in an all-out war: the Galactic Empire from Star Wars, or the Federation of Planets from Star Trek. And we just nerdy battle it out. It's an open invite; anybody could pop in, and we just. Just like when we were 14 years old at the comic book store, no, Spider-Man would beat Batman, which we did do. Spider-Man. This week we're just doing DC versus Marvel, and a week before I did Narnia versus Middle Earth, and I left it open. I like the books better. I like this world better. This one's a better, whatever. But it's fun. And then Sundays, it's just me, and I do Sunday comics, 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time, and I just take out a comic book and it's not really a read through. But I go through every page and talk about it, talk about the art, talk about whatever, where I was when I bought it. And it used to be like me and 3 other people, but now it's getting to be like hundreds of people. Like they all get their coffee, we all sit around, and the chat is really active. It's a lot of fun. It's my favorite thing that I do on the channel.
That does sound fun. Well, your previous show sounded fun for people that are way into comic books.
It's clobbering time in Sunday comics, it's a lot of fun, and anybody could pop in, and it's best to pop in, because if it's just me talking about which one I like, it's not that good. It's good when it gets heated, but it's fun heated. Nobody gets mad and yells at each other. But like, I'm trying to think. We did I don't know. I'm trying to think of other controversial topics that we did, but it was like a couple weeks ago we did. I know you're not that into comics, but Reed Richards saved Galactus's life. So we did Reed Richards versus Galactus. Was he correct? And it was like a philosophical debate. That was a real fun. It wasn't funny. It was like, I don't know. It was like highfalutin. It was kind of
you guys got deep.
Yeah, we got deep. Yeah, that was.
That's interesting.
90s comics versus 80s comics. That one, almost came to blows. I like my 80s comics, and I'm an old fogey. I like my 80s comics, but it's fun. And then we invited.
Yeah, and you guys, I'm dropping John's link one more time in the chat for you to go check out Heroic Tales on Fund My Comic right now. And sounds like for you people that love to watch the YouTube, go check out John's channel. John, I'm so sorry, I don't have the link to your channel here, but you can look up John's YouTube.
Yeah.
And you can join in on the chat and have anything from silly fighting arguments in chat to philosophical debates
Yeah. Like
on whether.
yesterday, I had Dan Fraga. He just talked about him joining Image Comics, and he talked about, the guy who's been in the business for 30 years. I had Mark Miller, who's doing kick ass, and one of if not the most successful person in comic books of all time. Walt Simonson, Jim Shooter. My dream interview is John Byrne, but we could dream. It'll never happen, but I could dream.
Well, it kind of sounds like you're lining yourself up to get that dream interview.
Yeah.
With so many people that you've already had on. And you need to, when you go and approach, I would just say, brag on yourself and say, all these people have talked to me. Why are you a snob?
I joke around because I tricked Mike Barron to come on when I was super tiny, and then I was like, I got Mike Barron on my channel, and all the people were like, oh, okay,
Yeah, that's, I think there's something about Mike Barron because Mike Barron literally was on episode 2 of Creative Chaos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think he loves the smaller you are. He's like, oh, I need to help you as best as I can.
Talk about a nice guy. I was super intimidated. If you go back and watch my first talk with Mike Barron, I was like Cindy Brady on the Brady Bunch, when she was on the game show. And I was so intimidated. I was like, Mike Barron's never going to talk to me again. To the point, he calls me up to give me tips on my comic.
That's so nice.
I'm like, my wife's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, Mike Barron. She's like, okay, I don't know what that means. He wrote the freaking Punisher. Mike Barron.
So. Yeah. It's surprisingly, I think, kind of easy to get Mike Barron to come on your show. He's just a nice guy.
Yeah, he really is.
And he's out there promoting indie comics, and he'll have a nice conversation, and he's not too shy to say when he's done and leave your stream.
It's funny because I tell him that. I go, give me a hint. So I'll be talking, and he just goes like this. Like right in the middle, and I'm like, Mike wants to go, and he laughs. I know Chuck Dixon. Oh my God! Every time Chuck Dixon comes on my channel, we're like wiping our eyes. We're laughing so hard,
Oh, that's so nice.
This Chuck Dixon is literally a guy that I've been reading his. I picked up his first comic. It was Airboy number. Well, that wasn't his first comic, but that was like his first regular series. And I've been reading his comics from the beginning of his career. And now, he sends me mail, and it says. To John Longbox, my buddy from Chuck Dixon, and I'm like, nice. I'm like cutting it out and showing up my wife, and she's like, "Oh, what do you want for dinner?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you better be nice to me. I'm Chuck Dixon's official buddy."
That's so cute. Oh my gosh. Well, just kind of on the Mike Barron note, and because I need to tell everybody where to find me and plug Flip City one more time. Mike Barron is actually going to be interviewed by Flip City in a very Flip City style manner for volume 25, which we are working on right now. And I think we have a mid-May deadline. So only a month from now should we be going to print on volume 25. It might be the end of May. But Mike Barron is going to have an interview in that, and it'll be about 5 pages, and it comes with illustrations of things that were talked about during the interview. We love interviewing people for the magazine, especially when they have wonderful stories to tell, like Mike does. So that's coming up. And for anybody that wants to check us out fulfilling here, we'll probably start in the next hour. And if I can get a live stream up or two, we're going to be doing that on Rumble and Pilled. And maybe YouTube, I don't know. I'm hoping my producer Cosmic will give me a little bit of advice backstage when we're done with Creative Chaos tonight. But we're going to wrap it for tonight. We're going to let John go to bed because, like you said, he's a construction worker. So
I wake up at 4.
Yeah, butt crack of dawn, everybody. So let's say goodnight, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, class. List everything insensitive, exclusionary, bigoted, nationalistic, misogynistic, and offensive that you can find in history's great myths and legends. Extra points for suffering panic attacks or emotional outbursts. Fact-check every opinion against the lived experience of your comrades and allies, so you can avoid forming a criminal opinion. Scrutinize it cover to cover. Wrongthink, misgendering, dead naming, misinformation, microaggressions. Leave no page unturned.